What's up, my comic book brothers and my comic book sisters from another mister? Today we're going to do a full first story arc review of Spawn: The Beginnings, issues number 1 through 5, brought to you by RatedComics. Before we get into the content, link in description if you wish to purchase any of the comic books in this review, support the art, support the industry, and or some of our Rated Comics exclusives as well. Timestamps are in the description if you wish to go from issue to issue. Last but not least, if you like the content we're throwing up, like the video, subscribe to this channel. It'll help Rated Comics to make more comic book reviews and comic book related content like this. With all that being said, let's get into the content. We begin this issue with Al Simmons narrating that he doesn't belong here. Not here, not now. The deal he made was rigged. He made me believe, he says. Now there's darkness in my soul. He wants to die again, but he chose to come back. Does he mean it? Does he not mean it? At this point, I don't even think he knows the answer to that. But what he does know is he chose to come back, but he doesn't know why. His memory starts to come back in fragments. We know that's Wanda, but at the time he doesn't know that. He remembers someone to hate. That's Jason Wynn, but he doesn't know that at the time. Al remembers being something special and proud of it. United States military. Now he also remembers dying. All these things start to come together in fragmented pieces and in gaps. To Simmons, it's not making sense. It's clear when he states that I needed, he gave. I had to, and all that I could think of was her. We know that he made a deal with Malboja to see Wanda again. But what he wasn't expecting was the lies, the plot twist. He accepted the deal on his terms, his rules, and his way, and somewhere in time Malboja is laughing his ass off about it. At this point when this came out, it wasn't known that Malboja was the demon he made a deal with. But we know now. We know that Spawn's power meter at the release of this issue is 9999, 9,999. As much power as he was given, he was also robbed of his memories. He knows he has to find Wanda so he can piece this thing together, but he can't remember her. But Spawn is certain that she'll remember him. He's going to find her all right, and when he finds her, he'll have his answers. Then he's going to find the one who framed him. Every story has a beginning, and this is Al Simmons, aka Spawn's beginning. And in this panel, we are introduced to Sam and Twitch, NYPD homicide detectives. They're investigating who threw Carlo Giamatti from a window, a mobster. He was thrown from the 44th floor. To add a humorous plot twist to this thing, Carlo Giamatti's heart was removed. I mean, maybe getting thrown out of 44 stories from above is not enough. Your heart's gotta be removed too for good measure, you know what I mean? A little dark humor, and speaking of dark humor, Sam believes they got themselves a grade A whacker or the best damn volunteer cop in New York City. He feels that way because 3 hitmen were found dead in the last 48 hours. He sees it as somebody is saving him a lot of work. Now, in this panel, Spawn stops a group of thugs trying to thug themselves into this woman in the alleyway. Not to mention, they want to cut her tongue out too. Spawn takes the leader and tosses his ass out the window. You ain't carving no tongue, son, and tell your mama to save me a plate. All this memory mind messing with me is making a Hellspawn hungry. Alright, Spawn asks the other boys, who's next? One of the thugs step up to Spawn like, bruh, nobody messes with me. Spawn flashes his necroplasm and tells him, fat boy, you're way out of your league. And why do I get the voice of Keith David, the original Spawn voice in the animated series? That just kicked in right at this point. He lets out a small dot of necroplasm and we got ourselves a necroplasm explosion. He turns to the lady and tells her not to be afraid. Naturally afraid, she tells him, please, I'll do whatever you want. Before he can assure her that it's all good, the random inconvenient memory flashback hits him again. And this time from reading it, it's not Spawn who's doing the narrating or Al Simmons, it's someone else. Something mysterious is doing the narration. Once again, your mind explodes with a searing pain. A floodgate of memory bursts wide open, yet it is her face that keeps haunting you. Always her face. Who is she? Then things begin to crystallize. You remember your funeral, begging and pleading for someone to release you from the darkness? You're not dead, you can't be. Then you feel her presence, warm, caring, soothing, but somewhere deep inside, she feels empty now. She has no reason, no meaning, no soul, but your soul lives while hers is dying. And then this demon flashes in front of his face, and this traumatizes Spawn. At first, Spawn was the one saving her. Now the victim is the one consoling Spawn, like, hey, come on, it's okay, you're all right, it's all over now. I don't know, man, that's just kind of fresh and a little bit of twist right there. So with that recent memory flashback, Spawn Spawn realizes that that's his wife. He has a wife, but he can't remember anything else. He doesn't know what her name is or the color of her eyes, but all he knows is that they were husband and wife. That's why she was grieving at the funeral. It was her that made him want to come back. And he let his mercenary instincts take over too quickly. He got too caught up in this damn costume. He's no hero. It's just that everything is so different. What happened in the last 5 years? He's stranded here not knowing what's going on. He knows he's alive, but he can't feel it. The only thing he feels is this damn costume, and he has to get away from it and rip the symbiote mask off of him. And when he rips the symbiote mask off of him, his face just felt like he doesn't know who he is, what is he? And he asked himself that. Just like Sam and Twitch ask himself, who are they dealing with this person that can rip hearts out of people's bodies? Because that freaking strength is freaking unreal. And we get to see Spawn's power meter at 995 because that little necroplasm blast reduces his power by 4. So Malboja somewhere in time is just laughing his butt off. Ha, Simmons, if you think you got problems now, I promise your troubles have just begun. And that is the end of Spawn issue number 1. Hey, I had to go classic with it because you know what? I realized there's some amazing Spawn story arcs that I wanted to cover, and Spawn issue number 1, the beginnings, I want to cover that story arc. And if there's any other story arcs of Spawn you guys want to see me cover, comment below, let me know. Or hey, if some of you Spawn fanatics want to, did I just say Spawn fanatics? Yeah, I did. So if some of you Spawn fanatics want me to cover the entire Spawn series, start from 1 and go all the way up to current, hey, by the way, just comment below, let me know, give me some time, and I pray that I can live that long to make that happen. That'll be awesome. But in the meantime, we do have Spawn issue number 296 all the way up to its current Spawn volume up and running, all the King Spawn, all the Gunslinger Spawn, and all the Scorch as well. And don't forget to check out RatedComics.com for some amazing comic books as well as Rated Comics exclusives to add to your comic book collection. We begin this issue with the 3-foot tall or something like that clown standing in the alley discussing all the gruesome ways he can kill someone to a regular alley cat. Meow. He's talking about ripping hearts out, making fillets out of someone's lungs, and making a milkshake out of this somebody's heart and soft boiling his eyes. Why? Because the clown claims to be the violator to the cat, and that he will be going after Spawn later that night. He loves being him, he loves being himself, but he will hate to be him tonight, and by that he's referring to Spawn. Spawn is drawn to the top of a church cross. He begins wondering how he'll find his wife and how she'll accept him now that he's been disfigured. He doesn't know how it was done, but he does know at least why it was done. It was for her, it was to see her again. But he doesn't remember her name. For 2 days, he's been trying to make sense of all this. Simmons, now Spawn, has no name, no money, and no home, so he hid. He knows he's not human anymore, and he asks why his wife would want him back if he finds her again. We definitely get to know the inner turmoils of Spawn in this issue and what he's dealing with from an emotional standpoint. He curses at the devil for betraying him in his deal to come back, and he knows that he's messing with him. He knows he's controlling when he gets these visions and thinks it's a sick, twisted game to him. Whoever's causing Spawn to see these visions, it's all but a joke. His thoughts are interrupted when he spots that strange clown, the Violator, waving at him from the shadows of a nearby rooftop. The clown disappears into the shadows. In this panel right here, we are shown a mob boss being attacked and his bodyguard rushes to his rescue. This takes place inside the Dawn Court building. The mobsters are attacked and have their hearts ripped out from their chests. The Violator stands over a bloody mess. You know the Violator enjoys this a little too much. On top of the church, Spawn is hoping these new powers can help him find his wife again. He also wonders why did he even get all these powers when all he wanted was to see her. I mean, what's the point? I just want to see my wife again. Why do I get powers as well? Then he asks himself, why would she want to hold him and see him if he looks like a rotting corpse? So Spawn attempts to use his magic to transform his skin back to the way it was before he died. He's shocked to find out that he turns himself into a white man when he knows he should be African American. In this panel right here, Sam and Twitch discuss the paperwork piling up on their desk. They now have 6 cases from the heart surgeon and no leads, all the hearts being ripped out. Sam also mentions to Twitch that they got a problem with some costume freak hiding in the alleyways. He's referring to Spawn. With all this work they got in front of them, that means no eating and no sleeping for a few days until they get some answers. We go back to the Violator again, and this time he takes out a mob boss named Gino. We get to see the Violator's dark humor in this panel, and he tells the mob boss, here's the deal, you lend me a small piece of your anatomy and I'll let your soul get tortured forever, so guess what's next? He shudders when Gino mutters her name, Jesus, over and over again and rips out his heart instead. You could say it was a bad guess according to the Violator. Now back to Spawn and the cruel joke that's being played on him in this panel. All he wanted to do was use his powers to be transformed to the way he was before, African American that is. He questions what did he do to deserve all this. All he wants to do is to see his wife. He knows she won't even know who he is. He believes this to be some kind of war, and if it is, he wants to be taken and or ended. Then in a small whisper, he asks God if he's going crazy. Suddenly, his mind explodes as if to be on cue. Spawn receives a flashback of Jason Wynn, who had taught him to fight. He recalls getting into more fights and disagreeing with Wynn's ideals. He found that Wynn was slowly becoming evil. Liberties were being taken, rules were being broken, all in the name of democracy. Freedom. The price paid was seeing innocent people whose choices were taken away from them. America became a bully. Spawn becomes faint from the shock and exhaustion. He falls into a nearby alley. His power meter is reduced from prior events. We go back to the Violator ripping up some more hearts out of people's chests, but he's getting bored by all this. So back to Spawn. Upon waking up, he finds the clown and recognizes him from the rooftop. The clown tells him that he is Spawn and a Hellspawn that was sent back to Earth. And you gotta love when we get a little bit of information, but we also have to reserve more information for the next issue. He asks Clown how he knows about him. He thought it was because of God. Clown doesn't like the G word because the word hurts his ears. Just like the cat in the alleyway in the beginning of this issue, the Violator flexes the many different ways he can kill Spawn, and he holds nothing back from the imagination, ripping toenails from his feet, spine ripping, snapping bones like brittle chunks, and many other forms of brutal and grotesque violence. Shaking it off, Spawn dismisses the clown and walks away. Upon turning his back, the clown reveals his true form of being the Violator and asks him not to turn away and to have a heart. And that's where we end this issue of Spawn, issue number 2. What you guys think of the comic book? Comment below, let me know. I think I'm taking it back old school. I'm covering up the Spawn beginning story arc issues number 1 through 5, and I thought I'd take it back old school so we could go back forward by learning a little bit of the past. Link in description if you wish to add this comic book to your comic book collection. Support the art, support the industry. We begin this issue where Spawn suddenly recalls his ex-wife's name, Wanda Blake. He's glad that he remembers his wife's name because after 5 years of his life missing with no memory, he was about to go cray-cray. Even though we left off with the last issue of the Violator about to attack Spawn, at least that's what it seems like when his last words were, "Have a heart?" Al recalls his encounter with him from last night. Spawn was so certain that he had the knowledge of him because he felt there was something familiar about him, because Clown approaching Spawn and Spawn felt like there was something familiar about him, so okay, I think you're cool. Now, but at the same token, Spawn felt like Clown was a pain in his ass. Little did he know that was just the surface of it. After going back and forth talking to himself, he decides to go see where Wanda lives. He decides to head to the Central Intelligence Agency headquarters to dig up Wanda's file to find her. Now, he also thinks about how he used to think it was an invasion of privacy, but now he wants his old life back. So you know what, when it suits to his benefit, it's all good. But before, when he was involved, hey, we're invading everyone's privacy, but for his sake, he needs that little bit of invasion of privacy to make it happen. Once Al finds where Wanda lives, he's going to find the scumbag who's messing with his so-called life. For someone who didn't believe in religion, he sure got thrown into a biblical nightmare. It was a hell of a deal he made to see his wife again, to be stripped away of everything, stripped of his face, stripped of his skin and his memories. Not to mention the selective recall that Malboja decides to give Al at Malboja's will, and at Al Simmons' inconvenience as well. Elsewhere, Malboja laughs as he watches from his throne. He continues his plot to expand his army and use Spawn to aid in gathering the requisite soldiers. He's glad he has several other followers to check on him, as no one from Hell truly trusts each other. I mean, why would they, right? It wasn't by accident that Al was picked to receive the power. His life, his history made him the perfect choice. That was touched on in Spawn issue 175, which we did do a review on. Link in description, by the way. Feel free to check it out after you watch this video. By the way, if this is your first time here, if you're liking the content so far, you know what to do. Don't be shy, don't be stingy. Like and subscribe to this channel because we do awesome comic book reviews, especially Spawn, and the occasional comic book giveaway, not to mention some comic book related content too. And link in description if you wish to add this comic book to your comic book collection. Support the art and support the industry. But now in this panel right here, we got to go back into the content now. Sam Burke and Twitch Williams pour over the casework they have been piling up on the mob heart surgeon killings. That's what they're calling this kill, the mob heart surgeon. Courtesy of the Violator, of course. It's a lot of exposition here, but we're going to sum it up for you. Why? Because we got you like that. We got you here at Rated Comics. Speaking of Rated Comics, don't forget to check out our website, ratedcomics.com, for some amazing Rated Comics exclusive covers and other comic books as well. Outside, the Violator prowls the alleyways, singing songs to himself about murder. It is in his singing that he states, if he doesn't kill you today, he'll try it later. Perhaps that might be the reason he didn't do anything to Spawn in the previous issue. At the Central Intelligence Agency headquarters, Spawn breaks in to find Billy Miller sexually harassing his secretary Linda, who is already married. He went to the CIA to find out about Wanda and where she lives. Instead, he came across a brother trying to function in the wrong kind of way. Spawn picks him up by the throat and warns him to keep it in his pants. And could you imagine just Keith David doing the Spawn voice in that tone? Anyways, you gotta watch the animated series for that. And all Billy Miller could do at this point is like, but Spawn, please don't do nothing. Spawn isn't trying to hear all that. He takes the file on Wanda Blake and retreats into the night. Malboja laughs as Spawn uses violence, which he loves and yearns for, because the more violent Spawn gets, the more power he gets, and the more power he gets, which leads him to the likelihood of him leading Malboja's army. On the rooftops, Spawn reads about Wanda Blake, how she started a school funding in his name to help underprivileged children, and maps the information to her current location, which is Queens, New York. He wonders why she would move to Queens, New York instead of living with her parents who live on Staten Island. He has another unexpected interruption, probably courtesy of Malboja, we have to assume. Outside of Wanda's house, Spawn uses his necroplasm energy to transform himself into the Caucasian once more, also draining his power meter while doing so. He rings the bell, and when she opens the door, he is beside himself with how beautiful she is. When a small child named Cyan comes to the door, he faints. Upon waking up, he finds Wanda has been married to Terry Fitzgerald, his friend, and together they had a child, Cyan. Al and Terry go way back like chiropract. He is belittled and he feels like this epiphany moment, like what the hell was I doing here? As he could not have children with Wanda and now understands the devil is playing with him, showing him that his wife has moved on, remarried, and had children, or a child in that case. Spawn leaves wishing her happiness. In a nearby alleyway, Spawn's spell wears off and he returns to his vigilante costume. His pain only mounts. Why? Why are you torturing me? What kind of sadistic pleasure are you getting from this? You want my soul? Then come and get it. Just try and get it. I was going to give it to you willingly. Do you hear me? I just wanted my wife. Can't you understand that? You stole a Wanda from me, taking my face, my very existence away. And you even had to prove it was me who couldn't produce children. And to a man, that holds a lot of weight to it. You definitely feel the pain and agony he's going through here, so much so that he threatens Malboja with, and he's not knowing that he's threatening Malboja at the time. He doesn't know who this demon is. If you're gonna screw me, then I'm gonna screw you too. You want my soul? Then come and get it. Let's see who's got the power. As if on cue, the clown walks up and threatens him again. This time, he transforms into his true form of the Violet in front of Spawn's very eyes. Oh, the things you did when you were with the government, remember? You and I could have a million laughs together, says the Violator. I don't know who or what you are, says Spawn, but I guarantee you picked the wrong time. If you're from the same hell pit I came from, then I've got a message to send back to your boss. Good, says the Violator. They said you had a lot of spunk. Now let's see how much heart you have here. Slightly surprised, Violator takes advantage of Spawn's distraction and quickly plunges his hand into his chest, ripping out his heart. Spawn collapsed on the ground at that moment. Violator walks away shocked that Malboja's favorite human was already dead. We later discover in later issues of Spawn, Violator wishes that Malbolgia didn't give so much control, so much power to humans of the Hellspawn symbiote suit. He feels humans don't deserve that, it should be in his control. But Malbolgia has his reasons. Violator walks away. He hears who said anything about being human from behind him and turns around to see Spawn rejuvenate with green necroplasm healing his heart. And that's where we end this issue of Spawn, issue number 3. What you guys think of the comic book? Comment below, let me know. I thought this was a fun read. I'm definitely enjoying Spawn, the beginning story arc. We begin this issue with the quick summary of the events that transpired. Al Simmons has been trying to cope with his new so-called reality. You know, being Spawn. Also being brought back from the dead, selling his soul, and getting shot 5 years into the future as a white man when he's a brother. You know, a brother from another mother. Anyways, his whole reason for returning was his unrelenting love for his wife, Wanda. Now he sees that she is happily remarried and has a child, and that means he has been the problem. Now he feels like less of a man. His heart has been torn apart both emotionally and physically. After getting his heart ripped out by Violator, Spawn tells him, let's try that again, but this time try to do some real damage, as flames come out of his hand and he heals using his necroplasm. Violator can't believe what he's witnessing. He questions who and how Spawn got such powers. In his eyes, humans are fragile for this kind of thing. It's not every day humans experience their own heart being ripped from their chest. He looks at Spawn's beating heart in his hand and he realizes the obvious, and he is enraged. He doesn't need a heart! And he thought he had the power stronger than Spawn. How can Spawn survive without a heart, he asked. No one warned the Violator about this. The Violator wants to have some words with the Master. Spawn continues his silence. For what does a man say to an offspring of the pit of hell? Maybe the obvious. Nothing. He picks up his own heart, heals it using his necroplasm power, puts it back in its place, and he's like, yeah, that's better. Now pay attention, demon. I know your master. The scum screwing with my life too. He seems to enjoy ruining people's life, and for the life of me, I can't understand why. But if he's messing with you and changing whatever deal you made with him, that's your problem. I'm still trying to deal with my problem. Unfortunately, you think things can't get worse for you? Wrong. You got an immediate problem to take care of, namely me, because I'll be damned if anyone's gonna rip out my heart and not pay. And Spawn blasts him with the energy blast. The force of Spawn's blast carves a hole through the Violator the size of a basketball, but it doesn't seem to faze Violator. You idiot. You're not the only one that can survive an organ transplant. I had the power long before you stumbled upon him. And Spawn's like, well, so what's your point, bruh? My point? Boy, if you're looking to play the old game, eye for an eye game, you're a bigger fool than I thought. Allow me to demonstrate. And he tosses Spawn on the other side of the panel. And the reason why he does this is to flex his physical superiority. And Spawn lands on his feet and he's like, okay, so what's your point? Listen, I'm not here to play some game with you, says Violator. I'm here to keep you aligned, make sure you don't stray. Why he's making such a big deal out of you, I still haven't figured that out yet. But until such time comes, it's my job to show you the ropes. And keep in mind, the prophecy was made in Spawn issue 174 or 175, which we did do a review on. Link in description. Feel free to watch that after watching this video. And Violator continues his speech. Just hope I don't get to strangle you with them. He wouldn't want that. Be a pity to see Spawn go down. And so Spawn blasts him with another energy blast, another necroplasm energy blast. And Violator is like, ha! You're nice shooting, but you're supposed to hit the target, chump. And they're just poking jabs and, you know, clapbacks at each other, you know? And Violator's like, now let me give you a pointer. So Violator and Spawn engage in a brutal showdown with both losing appendages. Violator is surprised Spawn is more powerful and claims he was supposed to be the stronger one. And I'm kind of digging how it's off panel. You don't get to see the violence, you have to imagine the violence because it has to be much more brutal than one would think. Who knows? That's up for the imagination. Now Malbolgia comes in and tells them both to stop. I gave the both of you far too much credit. It's not necessary to mutilate each other when neither of you can die. Like a pair of jealous siblings, you don't realize the two of you are part of the same family. And like it or not, I'm your daddy and both of you are my bitches. Well, he didn't say that, but it just kind of adds a little bit more sauce and saltiness to it too. And like a good parent, I can see I need to share some insight to both of you boys to let you know what's going on. You see, destiny and damnation, you control neither. So even though you struggle to make sense of what's happening, it doesn't matter because I run both your lives. So Spawn tells him obviously to go to hell, and Malboja laughs about it, such vigor and humor. But don't be surprised, I do have a soul and 8 billion others, nearly enough to satisfy my needs. Evil can be very addictive, especially after death. The accumulation of souls of the damned can have only one outcome, the destruction of God. Yes, Simmons, there is a God. For an atheist like yourself, that might be a shock. But with all you've been through, I'm sure it's not such a hard concept to follow. So call him what you will, he is now your enemy, Simmons. And this was your choice, Simmons. I don't have the power to turn people away from God. They have to do that willingly. But once they do, I need to seize that moment and make them mine. Once I have them, my powers can and will control them forever, which is where you come in, my dear Spawn. My army is not quite complete. I need billions more, for the forces of good are naturally quite strong to ensure my eventual victory. Though I need agents to do my bidding, your past human life made you the perfect candidate. Young, brash, destructive, ruthless, and arrogant, and a hired killer. There's not too many of you around as one of my agents. You needed powers to set you apart. That was simple, but I'd be a fool to make it limitless. You're wise enough to have sensed the draining of that power, Spawn. If not, let me explain it to you. The more you use your energy, the faster you come to your second death. The slower you use it, the less chance you have of stopping evil around you. Either way, I eventually end up owning your soul. The only choice you have is how fast are you willing to give it to me. I mean, he's just pretty much adding salt to Spawn's wound at this point, but Malboja's breaking it down. And all this because of some petty little emotion called love. You humans are so predictable. So you see, my Spawn from hell, I can't lose. It's either the depletion of your powers, which leads to your death, which leads to losing your soul to the darkness, and simultaneously killing the so-called bad guys, which helps build my army that much faster, or you do nothing. Just stand by and let the evil and the ugliness prosper here on earth, while your emotions grow colder as you justify to yourself why you needn't to do anything to those who prey on the innocent. Now, let me heal that arm for you, because there's no sense of you wasting any more power, my child. So Malboja gives him a free arm. He's in a charitable mood, from a hell standpoint. And Violator gets pissed. Hey, what about me? How about a little something for my effort? Look, boss, I did a hell of a job keeping an eye on some of the criminal activities, and I made the cops think there's a lunatic on the loose. Even put a bit of fear into Spawn's heart. Speaking of which, no one warned me of his powers when I got this assignment. I mean, look at this arm. So in other words, Violator's like, yo, give me my arm back, and you failed to give me some useful information to help me do my job. But Malboja gets mad, puts Violator in his hands and tells him to silence, and clutches him and closes his fist. Let him know, hey, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, and I'm more superior than you, and I'm smarter, and here's why. You have failed me miserably. It's a competence like you that make my battle against the god so laborious. I sometimes think that there are traitors among us. You, Violator, are a sad excuse for hell. I made you in my image, told you to keep a watchful eye on Spawn, prod him if it called for it, but you also abuse those powers by going on a killing spree with no agenda in mind. Now, the New York criminals are being cautious. Paranoid thieves serve me no purpose. You, my erratic child, are being grounded. Drops him in his clown form. Even though he heals his arm, he's bound to not morph, and Clown cannot morph. And Clown cannot change form into the Violator, and he is pissed about that. So even though Malboja restores Spawn's lost arm and shows pity on him, he punishes Violator for his unscheduled killing spree because it has influenced crime lords to slow down their evil ways. So he locks Clown in his temporary form for a temporary period of time, but it's undisclosed. Clown yells that he doesn't mind being short, fat, and ugly, even though we know he does. With his rants and vent, you get the picture of how the clown really is. He does what he wants, when he wants, because he just wants to. Then he curses Malboja, and Spawn's looking down on him like, well, you want me to blast a hole through your chest and rip your limbs out again, or what? So in this panel right here at the Fitzgerald residence, Wanda Blake wakes up with a nightmare that Al was reaching out to her for help, but had changed somehow. Terry Fitzgerald lovingly supports her and feels she doesn't have to hide that she can't forget about Al. And that is the end of Spawn issue number 4. The best parts about this issue is Spawn and Violator going at it, and Malboja explaining the ground rules of everything that's happening to Spawn, and that Wanda seems to have the nightmares of her late husband. And there might still be feelings left for him, Other than that, the issue delivers as promised. Confrontation between Spawn and Violator, it's fun, and Malboja explaining the ground rules to Spawn and Violator, it ties it all together. Now we know what's at stake here. Like the last issue, this is building up to something more, and here on this channel we will continue building up on the Spawn content. At the Wingate Institution, Billy Kincaid has read his rights and claimed to be a cured man. He is being released from jail after good behavior. Let's not forget his lawyer's efforts, a technicality, and Dr. Reynolds' testimony stating Billy Kincaid's competence. This is an eerie man who murders children just for fun. Billy eerily smiles in this panel. He's told that the judge wanted to remind Billy to not have any contact with the dead girl's parents. He's silent, but in a creepy kind of way. You already know something's off, but the psychiatrist plays it off as Billy being overwhelmed with the whole procedure. Detective Sam Burke knows that this whole thing is off and that this man is a freaking sicko. He slaughtered a girl so bad it took 6 experts to identify the girl, and they only got him for one murder when Sam knew there was much more. Sam can tell by looking into Billy's eyes that he's not a cured man. Inside Billy's head, time is his friend. That's what helped him with the sentence. It was worth the wait, and he remembers those good times. It was so easy to lure children into this ice cream truck because children do love their sweets. During his sentence, he never stopped thinking about it. He hated that he didn't remember all their names. He sings his favorite song, "You scream, I scream, we all scream for ice cream." Billy reminds himself of the final number of kills. He did 27 freaking children. As he leaves, Billy sings about the ice cream song, and Sam Burke, who's standing right behind him, screams that he's insane and not actually cured. He calls Billy the walking butcher. Sam believes that the murder of Amanda Jennings was not an isolated incident, and he is correct about that. Sam thinks about how he's always played by the law, but the law sometimes doesn't win. He believes in the law and understands it far too well. He reminisces the night he lost his partner in the name of the law, but through all the obscene situation that he has been sucked into, Sam never lost sight of what matters most: to uphold the law and to protect and serve at all costs. You get the sense that he's up to something, but will he compromise his beliefs? What is he gonna do? In Queens, Wanda puts Cyan to sleep in her crib. She stands at her daughter's crib side for nearly 10 minutes, smiling down at the child she thought she'd never have, all while Spawn falls asleep in the alleyway amongst trash and rubble. Sam and Twitch Williams discuss the release of Billy at the New York City Police Headquarters. Sam doesn't know why, but his blood boils every time he thinks of Billy. Part of it is because with that girl, Jennings, he did things to her that were beyond belief, like pulling her teeth out by pliers and dropping maggots into her cuts. And that's based on the reports that Sam read. Twitch reminds Sam that Billy's constitutional rights must be upheld, even though this is very close to him because Twitch has 7 children that he loves dearly. Sam vents some more about this, and Twitch offers that they might be able to find a loophole in all this. They agree to perform a midnight stakeout to see if Billy has reformed, just a couple friends doing a little male bonding in the same neighborhood by coincidence near a certain kid killer at that. 2 days after his release, Billy takes Shirley Johnson. He offers her a free popsicle, anything she wants from his selection inside his truck. She enters, and you already know it's not going to end well. He ends up fingerprinting with her fingers cut off and glued to his wall. And to make matters more unsettling on Billy, he dresses up and we see Shirley's bloody dress on the floor. Now we fast forward to Cyan, excited to see Wanda after daycare. And by the way, if you're liking the content so far, you know what to do. Like the video and subscribe to this channel. Here at Rated Comics, we do awesome comic book reviews, comic book related content with the occasional comic book giveaway. Now, back into the content. Spawn is watching nearby in a trench coat. Hearing Wanda calling Terry an amazing dad tears through his heart like a bullet. It's a name he so desperately wanted to be called during his life with Wanda. Now he knows that will never happen, and to make it worse is he can't blame the devil for this one. A short time after, he retreats to a place he spends his nights. It's a night a few of the guys get together for a few laughs and a few slightly exaggerated stories. In this panel, bums get hit by cops. The cops are driving like this because they got a robbery in progress and they're rushing to get to the scene of the crime. Not the greatest excuse to run over the homeless in alleyways, but that's their reasoning. By the way, link in description if you wish to add this comic book and or any of Rated Comics exclusives to your comic book collection. Support the art, support the industry. The boys in the alleyway express their disapproval that the cops can break the law to everyone and no one is looking their way when they do it. And they're not protecting or serving from anything. An example of that is the release of Billy Kincaid. They express anger over his release. Spawn overhears, recalls how he was hired by Jennings for a hit on Kincaid. Cops go to him first. Problem was, they found all the mutilated bodies but evidence went missing, and then the shack blew up. What bothered Al Simmons as he watches Billy gets arrested by the cops was that he was smiling in a creepy manner. He found out 2 weeks later in an abandoned shack in Northeast Virginia were remains, multiple bodies, all kids so mutilated that they never did get the final body count. The shack belonged to Billy Kincaid. They had enough evidence to get him 10 lifetime terms, but suddenly things start disappearing. Files, photos, and containers. The shack where they found the evidence blew up. Not burnt down, but just blew up. Nothing was left. Their proof of untold deaths was gone. The real kicker was Jason Wynn then told everyone to drop the case, and they did. No questions asked. It was one of the 1,000 reasons why Jason and Al fought. So Al put it on the back burner for the time being. It wasn't the hill to die on, so to speak. Realizing this, Spawn needs a distraction from all this craziness he's been going through. His adrenaline is pumping now. Anger. With all that's wrong in his life, the only way to take his mind off of things is with work. He intends on cleaning up that mess he left behind. He leaves to take out Billy once and for all. With Sam and Twitch on stakeout outside of Billy's house, Spawn sneaks in through the back. Sam and Twitch do not notice Spawn. Upon looking in the window, Spawn spots Shirley Johnson's bloody dress. He thinks to himself that it doesn't matter who he takes out next. It could be anyone's kids at this point. Even Wanda's, and that's all the motivation he needs to go through it to the end. He's about to add another soul to Malbosia's army. Issue number 4 reference. Spawn moves into the house to make his move. Twitch spots a caped figure in the back and they both move in. Billy pulls out a knife with that eerie grin on his face. Sam wonders if the caped figure works with Kincaid. Sam and Twitch kick down the door and once inside the house, they find the evidence, but no Billy. Back at the New York police headquarters, Sam and Twitch begin plotting their search for Billy. When they walk into a back room, they find Billy Kincaid's body, bloodied and strung up with chains and a note with popsicles impaled inside of him. It reads, "Boys scream and girls scream, so I made him scream and scream and scream." And that is the end of this issue, Spawn, issue number 5, and the end of Spawn, the beginning story arc. What a brutal issue. And does Billy deserve this kind of ending? It was pretty savage what he did. I mean, I like to say my opinions on it, man. Oh my gosh, it was a great ending for the story arc right there. But comment below, let me know your thoughts on this. With that being said, Spawn, issue number 5, the end of the beginning story arc. What you guys think of the comic book? Comment below, let me know. And also, there's any other Spawn story arcs you guys like to see me cover? Comment below, let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I'll definitely get to it as quick as I can. Hey, I gotta film, read, and record these too. But this is fun right here. This is definitely a fun beginnings and a Spawn story arc you want to start with to get to know the character better. With all that being said, thank you again for watching. Until next time.